When Jesus touched the man with leprosy, he didn't just perform a miracle. He broke a law that had existed since the time of Moses. The account of Jesus cleansing the man with leprosy isn't just another healing account, but instead reveals the unique and pivotal role Jesus plays in our salvation. Now, let's begin by first reading God's Word together.
Mark chapter 1, verse 40 to 45. A leper came to him begging him, and kneeling, he said to him, "If you choose, you can make me clean." Moved with pity, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, and said to him, "I do choose. Be made clean." Immediately the leprosy left him, and he was made clean. After sternly warning him, he sent him away at once, saying to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer for your cleansing what Moses commanded as a testimony to them." But he went out and began to proclaim it freely and to spread the word, so that Jesus could no longer go into a town openly, but stayed out in the country, and people came to him from every quarter.
Unlike the previous passage where the disciples were mentioned throughout the narrative, the disciples are not mentioned here. The shift is distinct and purposeful. Also, while Jesus publicly cast out many demons and healed many people in the previous passage, there is a strong sense of secrecy in this passage. The reason for this is, while the previous passage demonstrates how the good news is to be preached, this passage reveals something extraordinary about Jesus' role within the good news. The cleansing of the man with leprosy was not simply another healing account. This narrative is describing something that had never happened before. In the Old Testament, many years before Jesus' time, God specifically noted that there were certain conditions deeming a person unclean. And when a person was unclean, he could not dwell with God or God's people. This is because there were only two possible results when a being came into contact with someone who was unclean. The two scenarios played out differently depending on the nature of the being. In the first scenario, if the nature of the being is human and the two came into contact, the human would become unclean while the unclean person remained unclean. In the second scenario, the being has the nature of God, and when it came into contact with the unclean person, God remained holy while the unclean person was destroyed in his holy presence. That is why the unclean person needed to live away from God and God's people. But when Jesus came into contact with the man with leprosy who was unclean, finally, there was a third alternative. When Jesus touched the unclean person was cleansed, while Jesus remained clean. This third alternative arose because for the first time in history, the being was not simply human and he was not simply God. Jesus is fully human and fully God. He is the only one in the whole universe who can fulfill the good news, because only through him who is fully man and fully God will we become acceptable in God's presence again. Notice that after the cleansing of the man with leprosy, Jesus gave strict orders to the man not to tell anyone about what happened. Jesus did not want to prematurely publicize his identity, causing unnecessary hype amongst the people. But instead, Jesus wanted the man to share his testimony only with the priest. They were the people who knew the law. Therefore, through this account, they should be able to start putting the puzzle together regarding Jesus and the good news. This was the beginning of an invitation to the religious leaders to accept the good news that Jesus is the fulfillment of the law. Through Jesus, a holy God can once again dwell among his holy nation. In the following three passages, Jesus begins to specifically interact with the religious leaders to reveal his nature and his relationship to the good news to them. Jesus cares so much for these pious religious leaders that they were the first ones to receive explicit revelations regarding Jesus and the good news. You will need to follow along to see how things unfold for them. If we are humble in approaching their accounts, we will be able to learn so much from their blind spots. Jesus could have healed the man with leprosy with a word, but Jesus chose to unveil his nature and the good news by touching the man with leprosy. When Jesus remained clean while the man was cleansed, the good news shines through. Jesus is fully man and fully God, hence he is not only willing, but he is also the only one who is able to make us acceptable to God so that we can be in God's holy presence once again. The silver lining has broken through, and the religious leaders were the first one to whom it was revealed. Would they welcome the breaking of dawn, or would they choose the familiarity of darkness? What about us? Do we choose to fully accept the good news of Jesus, or do we hang on to the false assurances of this world? This is a decision we will all need to make.
This study of the cleansing of the leper is just one piece of the puzzle. This is part 4 of our 40-part series through the Gospel of Mark. Each video is a building block designed to help you move from superficial faith to a life-changing faith. If you found a light bulb moment in today's teaching, hit the subscribe button. I promise you there is so much more waiting for you in the rest of this series. There is also a corresponding audio devotion for this message linked below. It will guide you to meditate and pray through today's message so that it moves from your head to your heart. Thank you for spending time in the Word with me. I'll see you in the next video where we will learn through the healing of the paralytic that Jesus did not come to temporarily fix the symptoms of sins, but he came to solve the root of our problem. But for now, Emmanuel, and God bless.